Good morning, TPS students. It is testing week and it's time to slay all day.
Yeet! Stay woke, be on fleek, and get that Gucci breakfast.
Goals. Say bye, Felicia, to that testing stress. Weather's gonna be turned, right, Chris?
Yes! Toledo weather gonna be V-lit during testing week. A hundo P chance of success. You've got this, kids. Steve, how about that traffic? Are we looking
Better than we're talking turn. FOMO won't be an issue. No traffic problems around any TPS schools to keep you from taking those tests.
So get a good night's sleep, do your best. In fact, be extra, extra.
We here at WTOL are V proud of you.
Good luck on your test, TPS students.
Umbrella. She's up, she's up. Whole nother level of shit you can't even understand.
What is good, my people? We are live back again with another episode of The Forecast. Now, I talk about the things that I talk about, not to harp on the negative, but so that we can truly understand the situation we are in. We've been systematically attacked for hundreds of years. The brutality we face is just the obvious part of it. But we are attacked in every aspect of our lives. The worst thing that happened to us was being stripped of knowledge of self, right down to the diet we're supposed to have. Our leading cause of death is things like diabetes, heart disease. Most times we die from diseases like that. They force us to send our kids to their schools. And then they say they're not allowed in the school if they don't get a shot. These are the people that in the past on a mass level have raped our children. They have beat them, tortured them, murdered them, treated them worse than animals. In the 1800s, they would have never done to dogs what they did to us. But today, we send our children to the same people to get an education. They're never going to teach our children who they are, their history, and the potential they actually have. They teach their children how to make others work for them. They teach our children how to perform voluntary servitude. And after hundreds of years, it definitely affects you mentally. But we don't have institutions to deal with the mental illness in our community. And when people in our community are having mental issues, they have nobody they can call. Far too many times they try to call the police. But more times than not, the police are more dangerous than anything else. In Las Vegas, a brother, Tashii Farmer, he tried to go to the police for help and he ended up getting choked to death.
Stop, don't move! You're tased! Taser! Don't move! Don't move! Stop right there! Get on your stomach! Get on your stomach! I will! Control me, someone. Give me red. Don't move me! Go on your stomach! Get 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 on your stomach! Go down! Okay, sir. Get on your stomach! I will. Stop! You didn't get it again! You didn't get it! Help me out! No. Please, turn around. No! Will! Down! Turn around! Down! Down! Okay, sir. Okay, turn around! Don't move! Okay, down! Hands on your stomach! Right there! Get on your stomach! Get on your stomach! Here, give me your hand. Get on your stomach! Get on your stomach! Get on your stomach! You see your head! Get your hands behind your back!
Due to the coroner's findings and investigation conducted by the Force Investigation Team in consultation with the District Attorney's Office, Officer Lopera will be charged with involuntary manslaughter
Breaking right now, our first look at the booking photo of a Metro police officer being charged with involuntary manslaughter tonight.
It happened last month outside the Venetian, and in the video you can see Tashii Farmer being tased and restrained by Officer Kenneth Lopera. 13 Action News reporter Masa Saidi is live at Metro headquarters with the latest developments tonight. Masa.
Steve, Tricia, that officer has been with Metro for 5 years. We just got that booking photo, so now we know he has been taken into custody, and right now he is being processed for 2 level D felonies, partly because of this. You mentioned it. That incident back on May 14th was captured on multiple cameras. You're looking at the officer's body dash cam video, very dramatic. There was also surveillance outside the Venetian, but the sheriff said today there was also witness statements and the findings of the coroner. This was new today. The coroner finding the cause of death to be asphyxia due to police restraint procedures. Remember, that was the big issue here. Did the officer's neck hold cause the death of Tashii Farmer? The coroner today, about 2 hours ago, said yes. Contributing factors we want to mention. The coroner also said there was meth in Farmer's system, and he also had an enlarged heart. Again, the 2 charges are involuntary manslaughter and oppression under the color of office. Both carry a minimum of 1 year, maximum of 4 years. The judge could sentence them back to back or not. The sheriff refused to take any questions today because he said the investigation is ongoing.
Now, this brother Tashii Farmer approached 2 cops. He was sweating, panicking, and he was saying that somebody was chasing him. Then when the cops started approaching him, he started backing up. And when he realized they weren't going to help him, he took off running. Now, when this cop, Officer Kenneth Lopera, caught up with him, he said he was trying to open the tailgate of a truck. He was trying to say he thought this brother Tashii Farmer was about to carjack somebody. But even the guy in the car said he never felt threatened. And now the police and the media are trying to present it like this was a car theft, when in reality, he approached the cops for help. So then the cop, Kenneth Lopera, started tasing him, and he ended up tasing him 7 times. This brother was begging him to stop, but he wouldn't even give him time to comply with what he was telling him to do. He just kept tasing him over and over. Then he got on top of him and started to punch him multiple times in the face, with another cop trying to hold him down at the same time. Then the cop, Kenneth Lopera, ended up doing an illegal chokehold. He was choking his brother for over a minute until he realized he was unconscious and he wasn't breathing. This brother Tashii Farmer approached the cop, and within an hour, he was dead. Now, I don't know what was going on with the brother, but he never committed a crime. But they tried to portray him as a car thief. Then, after an independent coroner ruled his death a homicide due to asphyxiation, and then he ended up getting charged with involuntary manslaughter. But even though he was charged, a grand jury still decided not to indict him.
One court decision could be vindication for an officer after a choking death outside a strip casino. A grand jury decided not to indict Kenneth Lopera, who used an unapproved hold. Thank you for joining us. I'm Marie Mortera.
And I'm Jim Snyder. That deadly confrontation unfolded in front of the Venetian Resort last year. News 3's Nathan O'Neill has our top story. He's been tracking this case from the very beginning.
Stop! Don't move!
A deadly encounter at the Venetian. An unarmed man and a Metro officer.
Okay, sir. Okay, turn around. Don't move!
Tashii Farmer Brown is punched in the face, tased 7 times, and put in an unapproved chokehold for more than a minute. In less than an hour, Tashii is dead.
Everything just went crazy, and they killed my boy.
Last year, Officer Kenneth Lopera was charged with involuntary manslaughter, but the case was sent to a grand jury, which routinely meets in secret, and decided not to indict the officer in question.
He never had intent to kill the subject involved in this case.
For the now retired officer, it's a step toward vindication. The police union representing him even offered up witnesses to contradict the coroner's ruling, which found Tashii died of asphyxiation from being restrained by police.
We presented 2 medical experts from the University of California, San Diego, and they concluded that the decedent died of cardiac arrest.
The ACLU calling it a travesty of justice.
Tashii Farmer was breathing and was alive before he came into contact with Officer Lopera.
Attorney Andre Lagomarsino represents Tashii's mother.
You have a killing that is completely on video that shows a defenseless man with his hands up who was choked to death and no accountability at all.
And Tashii's family has filed civil lawsuits and intends to ask the FBI to seek federal charges. Meanwhile, it's still unclear what the district attorney will do with the pending case against Lopera in district court. So far, our calls to the DA have not been returned.
Martial arts legend has testified before a grand jury looking into the death of a man in police Metro custody. Renowned cage fighter Frank Mir was enlisted by the team defending former Metro officer Kenneth Lopera. Lopera was charged with involuntary manslaughter in the death of Tashii Farmer, who died last May after being placed in a neck hold by Lopera. Mir's testimony before the grand jury is secret, but before he testified, he reviewed videos of the scuffle. Lopera's union believes that Farmer died from a combination of factors, including an enlarged heart, drugs in his system, and the stress of the struggle with Lopera.
Now, in a secret grand jury meeting, an unnamed grand jury decided not to indict this cop on any charges. They said this cop, Kenneth Lopera, wasn't at fault because he had an enlarged heart and had meth in his system. Despite there being video evidence of him clearly choking him out, don't believe what your eyes tell you, just believe what they say. Him choking him until he passed out and never waking up again had nothing to do with him dying. The police union even brought in their own medical examiner, and he said the independent coroner got it wrong. He didn't die of asphyxiation, he died of cardiac arrest. But the police unions will get on code to protect their own no matter what. They learn a valuable lesson about being on code and not throwing each other under the bus. They understand it helps them maintain power. Being on code with others, being on the same wavelength, gives whatever you have in mind more power. And if they can keep us divided while they stay on code, they can stay in power. And then they can tell you with a straight face he died from meth, not from being choked out. Because what are you going to do about it? Even though if he did die from cardiac arrest, it came from what the cops did to him. But it doesn't matter what happened. At the end of the day, it's always your fault.
Kenneth Lopera, this is a Metro officer accused of involuntary manslaughter, a case that made national news, in part, I think, because of a national sensitivity to issues of police violence. So where does this thing stand?
The district attorney presented the case to the grand jury. We were allowed to present defense witnesses. I wasn't inside the grand jury room. I can't talk about, what happened there, but I can tell you what our experts said. And we brought in medical experts from University of California, San Diego, and they said that Ken Lopera did not kill the decedent. The medical examiner said that the decedent died of asphyxia, lack of oxygen. Our experts said that there are no petechial hemorrhages in the eyes, which are signs of asphyxiation. The trachea was intact. There was no damage to the trachea, no damage to the hyoid bone. However, this guy had an enlarged heart from years of drug use, and he had a bunch of methamphetamine, and so our experts said that he died as a result of a cardiac arrest from fighting with the police.
A lot of what you're dealing with is optics. That he tased the guy 6 or 7 times, and there was a chokehold that was allegedly illegal, and that's where the sensitivity comes from. Would you agree?
No use of force looks good on video, but we had experts who came in and said that he did not use excessive force based upon the standard that the U.S. Supreme Court has given us. Frank Mir, a UFC fighter, came in and said that this was not an oxygen choke where he couldn't breathe anymore. And he said, there's a reason why UFC fighters aren't allowed to use controlled substances. It's not because they're the morality police, but they don't want a fighter dying in the ring.
So where does it go? What's next in this case?
Well, the district attorney, after hearing the evidence, decided to send the case file out to an independent expert to take a look at this. And so Force Science Institute, which is located back east, has a number of experts who look at use of force cases, and they are going to render an opinion, and then the DA will make his decision on whether to allow the grand jury to return deliberate on the case.
You look nationally, it's difficult for juries to vote against or to vote to put a police officer in prison for doing their job or things that happen in the course of their job.
Sure. As you stated, I'm a former district attorney. I was a prosecutor for 25 years. We prosecuted police officers, but there are two things at play, especially in this case. First, John Q. Public wants to give police officers some deference. They understand that they have a difficult job to do. And so those jurors, want to see more evidence. But in addition, and you know, this is a personal problem that I have with prosecutors around the country. I think they do the public a disservice. They charge these police officers and they let juries or judges make the decision, and you know, there are acquittals around the country. And John Q. Public says, I watched this on TV, how can that possibly be? There is a difference between a civil standard in using excessive force and criminal charges. In criminal charges, you have to show criminal intent. And there are very few police officers who put on the badge, put on the uniform, and intend to go out and use excessive force that day.
Now, you had the police union, the DA, all caping for this cop. They even tried to bring an MMA fighter, Frank Mir, to testify, just to say that chokehold wouldn't have killed him. They didn't tell him to shut up and wrestle. They brought him into a grand jury to testify, even though he had nothing to do with it. And of course, as this DA puts it, John Q. Public, the average person in the dominant society, capes for these cops. But our lives are not up for debate. It's disrespectful to debate whether one of us got murdered or not. If that's how you feel, we just don't need to be around each other. But instead, too many of us want to educate everybody else when they understand it better than you. They created this system. That's why we need to create our own system where we are protected. We are far too quick to want to forgive everybody when they didn't even want our forgiveness in the first place. They tell us and show us every day how they feel, and we fight to be a part of it. This same system that made people kill their babies so they wouldn't have to grow up in it. But this is why it's important to understand our history, so we don't continue to make the same mistakes over and over. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. Our ancestors left us the blueprint. But what we have to learn is how to protect the things that we do build, how to protect each other, how to get on code. Every other group has infighting, but when it comes to us, they get on code. And when we are on code, it doesn't matter what anybody else does. We cannot be stopped. And once we realize we're all we got and stop falling for the illusion of inclusion, then we'll be back on code again.
Police department. Go and set the TV down, man. Set that TV down. I just bought this house. You just bought this house and you're moving in at 4 in the morning? I'm moving in. All right, go and set that TV down. All right. Set it down. Can you give me a hand? Set it down. You got your paperwork, man? Yeah. Hold on. Is there anybody else here? No, I'm by myself. Okay, go and stay over there. I got backup coming. We're going to talk to you in just a minute, all right? You got guns, knives, or anything like that? No. When did you buy the house? Last month. All right. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to go over there by the side of this house here. I'm gonna put your hands up on the side of the house for me, okay? I'm gonna come over and check you for weapons. Okay. You ain't got anything on you, do you?
Just my wallet, my keys, and stuff.
Okay. Okay. Go and place your hand on top of your head for me.
Yeah, everything's good, man.
Good. Do you understand why I did that? I understand it's not comfortable, but given that we had all those break-ins and whatnot recently, when you see somebody moving
Out here?
Yeah, here in Tonganoxie. Yeah. Here just last weekend we had a whole bunch.
Oh, great. Right when I'm just that's real comforting to know.
So
as long as you
I apologize, but
I understand.
If you look at the situation, I think you know you get it.
Well, anyways, keep your car locked and all that, and you won't be a victim of a burglary and all that.
Chicago police raid the wrong home again, this time during a young child's birthday party. CBS 2 investigator Dave Savini continues his months-long investigation into wrong raids.
What was the first thing you saw?
Guns. Samari Boswell says her little brother TJ was turning 4 and having a birthday party the night the siblings suddenly had guns pointed at them.
How were they holding them?
Like this. The 7-year-old was playing with her brother and cousins and awaiting a slice of this birthday cake when Chicago police burst in to raid their home. They were saying F words and stuff. It was horrible. Horrible and unnecessary because they say the person they had a warrant for, suspected of possessing the drug ecstasy, hadn't lived in the building in 5 years.
Were they all pointing guns?
Oh. The CBS 2 investigators found this security video taken from a building next door. you can see 17 officers head to the family's home.
All I heard was steps, like shoes coming down the stairs hard and saying, "Get your hands up."
Kiana Jackson, the kid's aunt, said the raid went on for about 40 minutes and police refused to show them a warrant.
I asked for a search warrant, I guess one too many times, and he was like, "Arrest her."
CPD's own search warrant policy says warrants need to be turned over promptly.
They manhandled me. It took 2 officers to get the cuffs on me.
I thought they was gonna shoot me and my brother and everybody else.
Samari and TJ's mom was in tears over how frightening that night was for everyone, especially the kids.
It's just like emotional for my daughter to fully understand and feel the way she feels at just 7 years old.
So how often do wrong raids happen? Seems to be a tightly guarded secret at Chicago Police Headquarters. We've been asking for the numbers for the last 5 months, but on our own, we've tracked down at least a dozen cases over the last 18 months.
We do everything we can to ensure that we are targeting the right location.
Chicago Police Superintendent Eddie Johnson is talking about bad raids and bad warrants, but he won't tell us how often it happens. Wrong raids like this one captured on police body cameras. Our CBS 2 investigators obtained the video and broke the story of this wrong raid on the Mendez family's apartment. Guns pointed at the family, and an innocent Gilbert Mendez cuffed in front of his children, Jack and Peter, who were traumatized.
This is the saddest moment.
We try to provide the officers all the training we can to ensure that that type of thing doesn't happen.
But it is happening repeatedly.
So you could have been killed that night.
I could have been killed.
Sharnia Phillips says a bad warrant led to her home being raided and guns pointed at her. This family said the same thing happened to them too.
Where did they point the rifle?
Around. If he hadn't moved or tripped or anything, who's to say what the cop would have done?
Officers terrorized a totally innocent family.
And now today, the Tate family is also suing the city for their wrong raid.
We do everything we can, but we're not perfect.
For months now, his department has failed to turn over bad search warrant information, including a list to CBS 2 of all the wrong raids police performed.
We're human. Sometimes we make mistakes.
He gave us the wrong apartment. He gave us the wrong apartment.
In the Mendez case, police were also caught continuing to search even after they realized they got it wrong.
He gave us the wrong apartment.
And listen here as they even joke about their screw-up.
What's up, dude? Bad. Hey, just throw a party for me.
No, it's not. You signed off on it.
Huh?
You signed off on it.
Hey.
Are you tracking them? Do you know how many times they get it wrong?
Yeah, we look at it.
Do you have actual numbers?
I don't have it off the top of my head, but we do have it.
Because we've been asking for numbers.
But he doesn't answer and just turns his head.
They live upstairs.
Meanwhile, wrong raid allegations keep surfacing.
And I was just terrified. I was very much humiliated.
Since the city has yet to comply with our Freedom of Information requests involving bad warrants, we have now gone to the Attorney General for help in getting the city to turn them over. The tips keep coming in. More people called the CBS 2 investigators today, accusing police of more bad raids.
And there's been a development as far as COPA goes as well, right?
We know now that COPA is involved. They're asking questions about the videos, and I believe they are getting the videos right now.
Unbelievable, though, the superintendent just turns his head when you're trying to get answers.
He never let me I never got the chance to follow up the question.
Yeah.
But they know we've been asking for this stuff, and they haven't given it to us.
Right. Stay on top of it.
I'm sure we all know what occurred this morning. My personal opinion is that you all know where I stand on this. Do I think justice was served? No. Where do I think justice is? I think this city is still owed an apology. I've heard that they wanted their day in court with TV cameras so America could know the truth, but no, they chose to hide behind secrecy and broker a deal to circumvent the judicial system. But again, at the end of the day, it's Mr. Smollett who committed this hoax, period. If he wanted to clear his name, the way to do that was in a court of law so that everyone could see the evidence. You all know what the bond proffer said. You know, we all know what it said. So, you know, I stand by the facts of what we produce. If they want to dispute those facts, then the place to do that is in court, not secrecy.
This is a whitewash of justice. A grand jury could not have been clearer. Mr. Smollett is still saying that he is innocent, still running down the Chicago Police Department. How dare him? How dare him? After everybody saw, and I want to remind you, this is not the superintendent's word against his. The grand jury, a sliver of the evidence, and they came to a conclusion, as did the state's attorney's office. This is not the superintendent and the detectives department word against his. And even after this whitewash, still no sense of ownership of what he's done. He says that, in fact, he is the wronged in this case. This is an unbelievable, not just whitewash of justice, this is a person now who's been let off scot-free with no sense of accountability of the moral and ethical wrong of his actions. From top to bottom, not only besmirching the name of the city, but then I cannot stress that in a time when you have people bringing a moral equivalency in Virginia between bigots and those fighting bigotry, then you have a person using hate crime laws that are on the books to protect people who are minorities from violence, to then turn around and use those laws to advance your career and your financial reward. Is there no decency in this man?
Lied to his mom. He left his teammates hanging while he skedaddled. He embellished some details. No, he lied. No,
some details?
There was no robbery. There was no pullover. There was nothing. Nobody
there was no
cocked a gun to his head.
Hold on.
He lied.
Okay, calm down. Listen, if a security guard is standing in front of you,
he lied.
Sure, he embellished.
No.
Money unwillingly came out of his pocket.
They were knocked out. He said their car was hit.
That's not true. Gun to the head is a dirty, hairy moment. That didn't happen. They weren't sideswiped.
He created all of these moments to make himself look like,
okay.
But I've stared them down in the face. It was, like you said, the dirty, hairy moment. I mean, come on.
Look, these are kids traveling abroad. They're great athletes. They're great swimmers. We don't want an apology from them.
We agree to disagree.
No, I'm just saying. We talk about there's video of vandal. We haven't seen the video of the vandalism in there. Keir Simmons did a piece this morning.
Right.
Took them in there. There's nothing damaged in the bathroom.
Take my cotton, bitch. Take my cotton, bitch. Well, you're not using the right words. Take my... Wait, get a video of it. Pick my cotton, nigger.
Right now, the University of Georgia is investigating a video where students are seen joking about beating slaves. You see it right there.
Yeah, tonight that video is going viral, exploding on social media. CBS 46's Yasmina Alston live in Athens. Yasmina, those students are actually part of a fraternity.
Mike, that's right. Those students are part of Tau Kappa Epsilon here at the University of Georgia. The video shows them laughing about beating black people and also using a racial slur. That video, of course, has many on this campus upset.
It's a short video that's made its way around social media and the University of Georgia. It shows some members of Tau Kappa Epsilon mocking slavery and using racial slurs. You see one student using what appears to be a belt to hit another student while laughing and saying, quote, "I'm not black." The video is upsetting many on this campus.
Being a black student here on campus, I go to the law school here, and especially given the history of slavery, especially on this campus, slaves built this campus, and so it's very disturbing to me to see that type of stuff, and I hope the university takes it seriously.
Video, you hear profanity and one of the students using a racial slur.
Pick my cotton.
A university spokesperson says they are aware of the video, and the university condemns racism in the strongest terms. The fraternity has also taken action by temporarily suspending the university's chapter.
Poor representation of all the students that go here, because I would like to think it's a minority that think like that. So it's just a bad reflection on us, and I hope they're severely punished.
And the men in that video are currently unidentified. But again, the university is investigating to try to figure out who they are, and that fraternity is temporarily suspended, effective immediately.
Coverage you can count on begins with an incident unfolding at the University of Georgia involving a former local baseball star. News Channel 6's Devin Johnson is in the studio, and he has more with the latest. Devin.
A former Greenbrier High School baseball player is being accused of shouting racial slurs at a football game after a student posted her concerns on Facebook. University of Georgia is investigating that story now.
A Facebook post that is gaining attention. A student at the University of Georgia writes, "Today at the game, there was a guy sitting near my friends and I decided to yell out, 'Put put that racial slur in the game. Multiple reports say the person the student was referring to is Adam Sasser, a first baseman for the Georgia baseball team and a graduate of Greenbrier High School. He's being accused of shouting racial slurs to quarterback Justin Fields.
We've been raised being told that it's okay for certain people to say this word in certain circumstances, and it shouldn't be used at all.
Alexis Bigden Hunt believes Sasser's alleged comments does not represent the river region as a whole. Another person I spoke with told me she believes the university should figure out why whoever said it did what they did.
I think maybe we should explore on why he feel like this was appropriate for him to say those things, and especially in the environment they were in, that needs to be explored as to why he felt that way.
In a statement from UGA's head baseball coach, Scott Strickland says, "I expect every member of our team to behave at all times in a way that upholds the highest standards and values of the University of Georgia, and it's disappointing when that doesn't happen." The University of Equal Opportunity office is heading the investigation. Georgia's football coach, Kirby Smart, addressed the situation when asked about it in his weekly press conference.
Trying to build a program on tolerance and mutual respect. And you can't control what other people say, but the expectation is that people are part of our program and attending our games share the same beliefs that we do. It's sad that something like this would happen.
Both Carnard and Bigden Hunt believe whoever said the comment should get a second chance.
I don't think you should ruin a kid's life over it, but if this is an ongoing thing, whatever punishment you gave the other people, you should definitely have that punishment.
I do think he should have to go through some sort of educational reprocessing to learn what his actions mean and how they're wrong.
The director of athletics, Greg McCarty, released a statement reading, "We're aware of the reported incident involving this weekend conducted by one of our student athletes. While we are limited what we can say about the incident at this time, I want to reemphasize that we do not condone discriminatory behavior. The university's Equal Opportunity Office reviews all reported violations of our non-discrimination and anti-harassment policy to ensure appropriate response."
Am I a fucking fat bitch? I think yes. I know fat bitch. I guess you fucking moron. Get it. No. Fuck you, you cunt. You cunt, bitch. Bow down when you call me names, bitch. Blow me, bitch. Blow me, bitch. Get the fuck out. Damn it. Hey, look. When you take your little white trash drunk ass out of here, remember which way to go. That way. Yeah, bro! I'm not your bro, motherfucker! I'm not your fucking... Oh, I'm scared now, bitch! Your ass ain't done nothing but talk! Okay. Alright! Like I said... You lost 8 Mile, bro. I'll shoot your bitch ass. Oh, I'm scared now! You gotta go to 8 Mile to get it, bitch? No, bro, how would you come out of water when there ain't no too much movement? Oh, listen to you shit talking. Listen to you talking your shit. You only get brave on that side? Yeah, I don't give a fuck what side it is, you dumbass! You're so stupid!